Hi there, this is Dr. Everybody for CSE 231 to make a few comments about our first programming project. What I'm going to really do here, though, is talk about problem solving. You can follow along and do the Python, but for many students I found that actually the problem solving part of this is the hardest part. You want to develop the formulas, and once you develop the formulas on this particular project, it's relatively easy. You input some values, you do a little calculation, you print some values, just like the sample that we provided. So, problem solving. So there's really two pieces to this that I'm going to talk about today. One is the divide and conquer. That is, we've got a big problem, let's break it down into smaller problems that we can solve. And then the second part is what we call sort of owning the problem, and we'll draw some pictures and stuff like that. So let's start out and take a look actually at the project. All right, so we're doing the old classic tortoise and hare, and we want to see who's going to win the race, and we break it down to for some distance that are races, who takes the most time. Now we actually can't do comparisons because that'll be next week. But let's take a look at this project. And what I'm going to do is scroll down and look at the sample. All right, what is it that in fact we are doing here? Let me get something to draw with. So what do we have? Well, we have really two parts to this. One is how many miles does the tortoise go, and so how many miles is actually the race, and then how many inches per minute is the tortoise going, and then finally from that we figure out how long it's going to take. That is a separate problem by itself. This is divide and conquer. Let's not even think about the rest of it. Let's do that part first. All right, and so with that in mind, let me bring up let's see if this brings up. There we go. Now, let me get my pen back here. There we go. So what are we dealing with? So here's the classic formula: distance equals rate times time, which I'll say is d equals rt. And what are we given here? We're given a distance and we're given a rate. So and we're trying to calculate a time. So we can divide both sides by r. So it's really the time that I'm after, which is in hours, and I have a distance in miles. And so my rate better be in miles per hour for all this to work out, and the result will be some number of hours. Well, we're given the distance, it's right there. Okay, so we know that. How about the rate? Well, the rate is given in 100 inches per minute. So we've got 100 inches per minute. But I want miles per hour. Well, if you look it up on the internet, you can see there's this many inches per mile, but hey, inches are on the numerator. I want to get them to cancel out, so that means I need to have miles per inch, which is that thing flipped over. So that'll be in the denominator, and we see that inches cancel out. Now I've got miles and minutes, but I want miles an hour. You need something more there to figure that out. I'll leave that to you. Notice this value is what was input. I could call it X if I wanted to. And once you get this formula worked out, first thing you should do is see, do I get this value? Right? And keep going until you get that value. Once you get that value, now you can write out a formula, r equals blah, 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 whatever it is. And then in your Python program, r equals that, time is that, and then you can calculate it. And complete the program to do this first, so that when you input the 3.5 and the 100, you get 36.96 hours. Maybe there'll be some, it'll be 95.999 or something like that. But get that working, and then go and, this was the second test case we gave you. Go and do the first one and make sure that works, and then create a couple more that you can do by hand. And then once you've got that figured out, now you're done with the first part. And notice divide and conquer, right? I haven't even thought about what's going to go on with the tortoise. What's going to go on with the hare. Just did the tortoise, and we do that out. So you figure out the formula on pencil. Once you've got the formula, translating it into Python is really not that hard, particularly because we gave you a sample program. All right, you're done with that. What's going on with the hare? All right, so we're still going the same distance. So the hare is he also has to run my 3.5 miles. But the hare is a little different, right? He's got a rate. Oh, okay, so we've got a rate which is 1.5 miles per hour. Okay, that's good to have. So we've got a rate, and now again we're going to try and come up with hours. So if I've got I've got a rate now, and I want to get my hours. Now I have to figure out miles. That's a simple application of that formula. So what's going on here? So it looks like the hare is going to run, and then he's going to rest, and then he's going to run, and then he's going to rest, and he's going to run, and he's going to rest, and eventually he's going to make it the 3.5 miles. So I like to draw pictures. So what does the hare do? Well, he runs for a bit, and then he rests for a bit. And then he runs, and he rests. And we keep doing that until we get to the end of my 3.5 miles. Well, okay, he runs and the rests, and we're trying to get this. How far do you go? Well, he goes that far again. And then we got a little bit of left over here. So how do we handle this? Well, first of all, you better figure out how far he goes. And then you got to figure out how many of those there are. And then there's something left over. You've got to work this out by hand to see if you come up with the hare actually taking 2.5 hours to go those 3.5 miles. Okay. Once you got that worked out, then you can start thinking about a formula. Oh, what is this? Well, this is a distance. Remember, we're trying to calculate a distance. There's some more distance. How many of those are there? Well, how many of these are there in there? That sounds like division. Right. And then you have some left over. What's that? Well, play around with this until you get that worked out. What do we have here? One thing that's very nice in Python is we have a double slash, which gives me the quotient when I do a division, and we have percent, which gives me remainder. And you want to use those two. Now, one thing we talk about in the programming project, in doing programming projects, is when can you work with somebody and when can you not work with somebody? And one of the things, this is a very nice example of that. As soon as you start doing Python, that's when you want to be on your own. But to work this out, scratch this out, okay, so what does this mean, and so on, and coming up with some of the formulas here, right? Thinking this out, this problem solving step, do that with somebody else. It'll be a lot easier. But As soon as it comes time to writing any of this out in Python, we want you doing that on your own. Now in this particular example, once you've worked out the formulas to try and get into the Python, that's a relatively small step. We'll find as we go along in the course that that will be a big step and things will end up extremely different. So there you go. I really haven't done any Python here. I've just talked about problem solving. Two big parts to this problem solving. One is divide and conquer. All right? Take this big problem and make it into two smaller ones. Completely solve one problem before moving on to the other. And then for the second idea is start drawing it out and see where you get. All right, hopefully that'll give you enough to get going on this project. Remember, projects, get going early. These first ones are pretty short. You might be able to do it on the last day. Lousy problem solving. Believe me, as we get further into this course, you won't be able to do the programming project in a single day. So good luck.